What is going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. And in today's video, we're going to be going ahead and talking about the top 10 best raid characters that you guys who are free to play should be going ahead and farming up. Now, obviously, like I said in the other video talking about the Colosseum characters, you should pretty much just be farming like all of them anyways, just because it is nice to have variety and you never know when you're going to need a certain character. But in this video, I want to give you guys a list of characters that you guys should be prioritizing in terms of characters that you should be going ahead and farming. So in this video, we're going to be going through all those different raids that I think are the best ones to farm for at the moment on global. If you guys haven't seen the video yet where I talk about the Colosseum ones, just click the card at the top of the video. Go ahead and check that out if you guys want to know all the information about the Colosseum ones. But anyways, we're going to get into this. We have a top 10 list, but I also have two honorable mention characters that are characters that you should probably just max anyway, but are just really nice to have, but I don't think as at this current time are really as important as the top 10 list that I have listed here. And the first one that I want to talk about that's just an honorable mention is Garp and Sengoku. Unfortunately, the image is not actually on the website yet. But this character is pretty nice because they are a really good free-to-play fighter captain. So if you have really good fighters on your account, or even if you really don't, he actually kind of carries fighter teams a bit. And the fact that you can run a friend V2 Sanji, and you can run a pretty cool team with that. So honestly, I would still suggest farming him up just because he has a pretty good captain effect. And his special ability is really good as well. The fact that he removes despair, as well as allowing you to get a 1.75 attack and orb boost. He's a great unit to have. So I would definitely suggest, if you guys are playing on global right now, that whenever you get the opportunity to do so, to farm this character up, because yeah, he's just extremely strong to have, and you can partner him up, as I said, with V2 Sanji, Gear 4 Luffy, just a lot of good units, and just build a really strong fighter team, especially if you are more free to play in this game. And the other character I want to talk about is Rayleigh. This character right now on global isn't really the greatest. He is a universal attack boost, which is nice, but his cooldown is quite high, and there aren't that many teams where you can kind of squeeze him in. But once you do get his limit break, once his limit break arrives, that's when this character is going to be so useful to have. Literally just because he gets reduced cooldown by 3 turns, and also because of the sailor ability that whenever another character uses a special, he reduces his own cooldown. So this is why I would suggest, like, farm this guy up and get him ready for when his limit break gets released. But at the moment, he's really not a desirable character to own. So now we can get down to the top 10 listing. So number 10, I have Rob Lucci. So we just mentioned before about Garp and Sengoku and the fact you can build some pretty nice fighter teams, and this character adds to that as well, he himself being a really good fighter character. He's an int fighter powerhouse, and his stats are pretty good for a raid character with his limit break, of course. 1574 attack is pretty nice. Captain effect is also a pretty decent fighter captain, being a 2.5 captain, but he sets your recovery to 0, which isn't that great. But if you defeat an enemy in the previous turn, he's going to be a 3x multiplier, which is pretty decent for a free-to-play character, being a 3x multiplier. I still would think Garp and Sengoku is a little bit better because you do get a little bit more freedom, you get the switch effect, so you get a little bit more boosts, and also you get more orbs matching as a captain, but still a pretty solid captain as a fighter. His special ability is the reason, obviously, that we're ranking these characters, is mainly because of their specials. This guy on a 13-turn cooldown, when you max limit break him, does 100 times his attack in int damage to a single enemy, so that is a lot of damage. And there is a conditional boost here that he gives, but it only works if there's one enemy on the enemy side of the field. So if there is one enemy on the enemy side of the field, he will delay the enemy and then apply a 1.75 times delay conditional boost. So he's a self-proccing conditional booster, which is great, but the fact that you have to rely on two different things. You have to rely on there being one enemy, and you have to rely on the enemy not having a debuff or a delay protector. And honestly, in terms of conditional boosts, it's pretty good, but yeah, it's the fact that, it is a delay conditional boost. If it was a defense down conditional booster, it would be a little bit easier to fulfill, because a lot more enemies in this game do have delay protectors compared to defense down protectors. So either way, I think it's still a definite character that you should be maxing out, because in the situation where you can use him, it's a very powerful conditional boost that you can get from Rob Lucci. What else does he have? He has reduced side damage by 5%, and also barrier penetration, completely ignoring barriers when you actually max limit break this character. So again, like, that's actually a pretty useful ability, especially, when you have enemies that have barriers but really low HP, you can just go ahead and use his attack to just destroy the enemy. So I definitely think he's a character that every free-to-play player should be going ahead and maxing out. Okay, so for the next one, for number 9, I've got Doflamingo, both being his Dex and his Int version, of course. Both of them are literally the exact same character. They have some minor stat changes, but that's about it. And obviously the color, of course. So there aren't really too many things like really to note about this character, but his special ability is so powerful that it is worth noting. So he's just going to be a 2x orb boost basically for all characters. And honestly, like if this was a list that I would make, you know, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, this character would probably be much higher on the list. But the fact that so many different teams now have access to 2x orb boosters, I don't really think that this character is as required nowadays. I think the int version of Doflamingo is still pretty powerful because you can still run characters like V2 Shanks, and if you do lack V2 Akainu, you can still have this Neo Doflamingo to give you your orb boost for your team. But there still are a lot of other characters that can provide a boost depending on what type of team you are running. But just the fact that he is a 2x orb booster, and if you are lacking a good orb booster on your account, you can farm either the Neo or the regular version of Doflamingo. They're not that difficult nowadays, and you can just go ahead and get a free 2x orb booster, and he's a pretty good character. Captain effect is a little lacking. I wouldn't use him as a captain, but still a pretty useful character to get a hold of. The next one is going to be another Neo character. So we've got regular Sabo and Neo Sabo, of course, both being the exact same character, but with some different typings and some minor stat changes. He has 1305 attack, this character has 1325 attack, but this character actually has a limit break, so technically this Sabo is a little bit better because he actually does more damage. He will go ahead and make Cytles beneficial for Fighter and Free Spirit, and add 2x his attack as additional typeless damage. Dude, this Sabo is actually a lot better than Neo Sabo, but it depends on what team you're going up against. Like if you've got an int boss, the Neo version of Sabo would be a lot better, but for generic stuff, this guy is going to be a lot better. He actually has Enrage by 200, that's pretty strong, and he also has Pinch Healing. This character is pretty goddamn good, and obviously the fact that he does have increased attack means that his special ability of doing random typeless damage and then adding 55 times his attack as additional typeless damage for 2 turns, that is such a powerful special ability because, especially if you're free to play, right? If you're free to play, you don't have a lot of access to a lot of other characters unless you've been playing for a very long time, and this kind of special ability is very useful because even if you get like inflicted with attack down, this type of special ability can allow you to still output damage even if you are inflicted with attack down. And there's just a lot of different situations where you can use this character just to give your team a little bit of extra damage, and especially if you're running a zombie-ish team, you want to have a character like this that can just output a lot of damage to the enemy, because zombie teams obviously do not have a lot of damage output. This character will allow zombie teams to do that, and I mean, not a lot of people that are using zombie teams nowadays will probably opt to use this character, but he's still a character that I would suggest maxing out. His captain effect is a Free Spirit booster, 3.5 after good, great, perfect, and I believe the Neo version is the exact same, yeah. So not a great captain effect, honestly. 3.5 is strong, but after good, great, perfect, yeah, I wouldn't be using him as a captain, but still a pretty useful special ability that I would max out, and I would probably go ahead and rainbow this Raid Sabo as well. Once again, going on to another Neo character, we have the regular Akainu and the Neo Akainu. Both of these characters the exact same, except for some minor stat changes and their typing. Now, honestly, color affinity is becoming, you know, one of the more important boosts in the game, because in some situations you'll get into a boss where, you know, if you use an orb boost, they'll do something. If you use an attack boost, they'll do something. So you do have to sometimes opt for some other type of boost, and color affinity does provide a pretty good boost to your team. Especially if you are running a strength or an int team, then this Akainu is going to be extremely useful to have. Not only do they give you the color affinity, they give their color their orbs. So any strength unit on your team will get strength orbs when you activate his special ability, and any int character will get int orbs when you activate this special ability. And it also does a bit of damage as well. So this character, yes, you need to max this guy out. His raid is a little bit more difficult compared to all the other ones that we've talked about thus far. But yeah, I would definitely max this out. Color affinity is going to be very important. And if you guys are going to be running like cost restrictive missions, like ranking missions that ever come out, I would probably keep an unevolved version of both of these copies, just because it means that, you know, you can get color affinity if you need an int team, or you can get the color affinity if you have a strength team. So I would definitely max these guys out and definitely keep an unevolved copy. Number 6 on my list is going to be Bartholomew Kuma. This character, again, is just like an old school character that still really holds up to this day. He is an orb booster character, but the reason why he's so good is his orb manipulation. The thing about, you know, a character like this is that this character is never going to be a bad character. There's always a time where you're going to need to manipulate those type of slots on your crew, and not every team has an ability to remove those type of orbs. Bomb, block, empty, recovery, and tandem really don't matter matter nowadays because a lot of teams will just treat them as beneficial anyways. But empty orbs, block orbs, and bomb orbs, changing those into matching as well as applying an orb boost as well. This character is going to be so useful to have, and that's why it's useful to farm not only the raid version, but the Neo version, because you just never know when you're going to need a strength version or an int version of the same character. It's really, really useful that they do have the ability to actually do that. There is no difference between the two characters aside from their typing and some minor stat changes, but yeah, this character is a freaking useful character to have. He actually has a limit break as well, it looks like. Dex damage reduction and enrage by 200 is pretty powerful, and he will state that if the HP is above 99%, boost own attack by 50, and below 30%, he's going to boost attack by 75. Okay, so cellular abilities are kind of underwhelming, and these abilities here, I mean, dex damage reduction is whatever, but enrage by 200 is actually pretty useful, especially because you are running it on him on a cerebral team sometimes, which is actually pretty useful to have. But other than that, you know, I definitely think Kuma is a pretty solid spot for number 6, because you just never know when you're going to need a character to manipulate those type of orbs. Once again, another Neo character here. This is actually going to be the last character on this list that's going to be a Neo character. We've got Neo Boa Hancock here. Now, with this raid, with the Neo version, they've actually changed how the character works. So the int version of Neo Boa Hancock, or the Neo Boa Hancock, is the better version compared to the original version. She's an int shooter free spirit. Pretty good stats. Boost attack of attack and HP of free spirit by 2 times. It's a whatever captain effect. 12 turn cooldown for a 3 turn 2.5 chain lock. Delays, and also changes her own orb and captain's orb into matching. Yeah, this character is so useful to have. Having a chain lock effect that is multiple turns is actually pretty useful, because there are some, you know, situations where the boss will give you a lowered chain multiplier. You can use this, move into the final room, and you're not even going to have that. Now, this Boa Hancock does have a 2-turn chain lock as well, which means you still can carry this into the final room, but having a 3-turn boost means that the enemy's preemptive attack will not get rid of this 2.5 chain lock, and it means that you'll have a 2.5 chain lock in 2 separate rooms, which is really, really useful to have. The only reason you'll have this in 2 separate rooms is if the final room doesn't have a preemptive attack. But yeah, definitely suggest farming up both of these characters, honestly, because this one does have a limit break, makes sight orbs beneficial for shooter characters, pretty nice, boost attack HP recovery of shooters by 20, and she has int damage reduction and barrier penetration. Always is going to be useful to have barrier penetration on characters. You just never know when you're going to need that. But yeah, Boa Hancock is a very impressive unit, and you know, we only just had her on global now, so if you did miss out on Boa Hancock, the Neo version, you have to wait till she returns, but she's definitely a must-max raid unit for sure. Now, if orb manipulation is a problem for you, then Thousand Arm Cracker is going to be your best friend, because he will allow you to get a lot of matching orbs. So here we have Thousand Arm Cracker. He is a cerebral powerhouse dex character. He has some pretty good stats, of course, 1660 attack after limit break, boost the attack of cerebral by 2.75 and 1.25 HP. That's a really good free-to-play captain effect, just honestly, just looking at that. Special ability obviously is the reason why he's here though. 15 turn cooldown or 14 turn cooldown after limit break will go ahead and reduce the chain multiplier, a limit duration by 5 turns, which is a really useful effect to have. That type of ability, when that gets inflicted onto your crew, there's not too many other units that you can really run on your team that can get rid of that as well as do something else. So this is a really useful character to have for that, because he reduces by 5 turns, and then he changes all orbs including block into dex, and dex orbs will be beneficial to all characters. So he will give you essentially a full board of matching orbs, and he cuts the HP of one enemy by 20% that goes through damage negating abilities and barriers. This guy is so powerful to have, man. Like, a full board of orbs, reducing 5 turns of chain multiplier limit, and a 20% health cut no matter what. Yeah, you need to go ahead and get this guy. He does have a stage 1 special as well, which will go ahead and still give you the full board of orbs, and it's just a 10% health cut that goes through barriers, but still, you want to probably wait for stage 2 depending on what you're going up against, because it's a 20% health cut here, and also the nice utility with the chain multiplier limit. So yeah, you need to go ahead and max this guy out. He does have a quick damage reduction and a critical hit of 50% chance for 8% extra damage. So yeah, this guy's actually going to be hitting pretty hard as well. That's a really, really nice unit. So yeah, farm up Thousand Arm Cracker, especially if you are in need of a good cerebral captain, because he does provide that, and he will give you a full board of matching orbs, and nothing really wrong with this character whatsoever. So moving on to the top 3 now, if you guys are free-to-play players, this character is going to be probably one of the most important characters in your whole character box, having the ability to use a guy like Magellan. Magellan being a striker shooter, he has pretty okay stats. He is an int captain, But the reason why this character is so useful is because of his special ability, providing a toxic effect to all enemies and also delays them. Now the toxic, it obviously will take a long time for you to actually kill enemies with his toxic compared to someone like Legend Magellan, but still a character like this is going to be extremely useful for free-to-play players, because obviously when you're free-to-play you might not have access to some of the most powerful characters in the game, whereas someone like Magellan, who you can just kind of sit there and wait for his poison to just kill the enemy. Now it is a little bit difficult to build some teams though you can efficiently use this character, obviously, because you have to wait turns for him to actually start killing the enemy, so you could actually take a lot of damage before then. So he might be difficult to use in some like high difficult content, but I think this character is going to be a character that a lot of free-to-play players should be aiming to get, because it will make farming some piece of content just a little bit easier. So yeah, definitely pick him up. He actually does get a limit break eventually, makes 10 recovery beneficial for himself, so that's not too bad, but he has damage reduction effects, so that's not that useful. But having the 2 turns less cooldown, going down to a 14 turn cooldown for his toxic effect, that is actually quite useful, allowing you to use it just a little bit quicker. Moving on to the number 2 positioning, we have Bato. So Bato, I think, is a character that a lot of people should definitely go ahead and get their hands on, with one of the best defensive specials in the entire game. So this character is a Psi Striker driven character. Stats are pretty okay, obviously has his limit break, boosts the attack of all characters by 2.5, 1.35 health, and reduces damage received by 10%. But if you use his special ability, he's going to be a 2.75 captain to all characters. This captain effect is probably not a character that you'd be wanting to use as a captain. He has the special, right? The special obviously is the reason why he is so good. 17 turn cooldown, reduces any damage received above 3,000 damage by 97% for 2 turns, so he gives you a damage limiter or a damage threshold on your own crew. So you basically will take no damage for 2 turns, essentially. You're going to be taking about 3,000 damage for 2 turns. He recovers 50% of your crew's max HP, so you can use this special right before you're about to take a hit, and you can essentially take hits for the next 2 turns. It's such a useful special to have. Reduces enemies' attack up, enrage, end of turn damage or percent cut, and resilience buffs by 5 turns. This was the first character in the game that actually got rid of resilience on the enemy. So having an ability to remove resilience, the ability to heal, and the ability to take hits for 2 turns, this is a great defensive unit that any free-to-play player, or basically any player, should be getting their hands on. This character was extremely useful for farming characters like Colossi and Pedro, who did a death hit that was 200,000. So having a character like this means that you would basically be able to take a 200,000 death hit. Because you can just get the full heal, and that well, not really the full heal, but a half heal, and that half heal is enough HP for you to take basically any hit from any enemy. So as long as they don't have an ability where it removes all your buffs, this character is going to be a great unit to have. He obviously has a stage 1 special where it's still pretty good, honestly. He will reduce any damage above 5,000 by 97% for 2 turns, but he only recovers 20% of your crew's HP, and he does not get rid of resilience. So his stage 2 special is significantly better, but you can still use his stage 1 special to tank a lot of hits from the enemy. So on One Piece Treasure Cruise Global, as it stands right now, I personally believe that Raid Zora is the best raid unit that you can get your hands on in the entire game. He is just so freaking strong in terms of his captain and his special ability. So let's go ahead and discuss this unit. He is a slasher-driven quick character. His stats are very powerful, great health, great attack, and his recovery isn't really that strong, but that's not the reason why he's so good. Captain effect will boost slasher and driven characters attack by 2.75 times and a 1.2 times HP boost, and that's just his flat captain effect. But after 2 perfects, he's going to be a 3 times captain, and after 5 perfects, he's a 3.3 times captain. And he's so strong, having a really strong multiplier, stronger than any other multiplier that I think we've discussed so far, aside from Sengoku and Garp. But the thing about it is that he boosts 2 separate classes in slashers and driven characters. This is a great captain effect if you guys want to run the Doflamingo batch and run a friend V2 Doflamingo. He's a pretty strong captain for that. You can run slasher teams with a friend Mihawk, a friend Legend Zoro, anything you want. You can run slashers or driven with this character, and that's what makes him so strong. Sailor ability: if this character has a quick orb and you hit a good or a great, you keep it for the next turn, and boost attack, HP, and recovery of slashers and driven by 50. That's a pretty good boost for 2 separate classes. That's pretty strong. But his special ability is one of the best special abilities in the game, just honestly. Maxing out at a 14 turn cooldown, dealing 55 times his attack in typeless damage to one enemy that ignores damage negating abilities and barriers. On top of that, he actually reduces enemies' threshold damage reduction and percent damage reduction by 5 turns. So 55 times attack that goes through barriers, as well as reducing 5 turns of damage threshold and percent damage reduction, which is the rainbow shield. Now, if the HP is full when you activate the special, he's going to boost the color affinity of slashes and driven by 2 times for 1 turn. But even if you're not at full health, you still get a 1.75 color affinity for 2 turns. Like, this guy is insane. Like, he has a special ability that I would say is just as good as, like, a legend character. His special ability is better than a majority of, like, the old school legends, honestly. You need to max this guy out, honestly. Like, you can do so much damage output with it, as well as having utility, as well as having an ability to hit through barriers. Yeah, you need to max this guy out. He's better than every single other character we've talked about thus far. He's insane. He has Enrage up to 150 and Slotbind self-reduction up to 7 turns. He has even the best limit break abilities out of all the units we've discussed so far as well. Yeah, this guy's the best. He's the best raid on Global, hands down right now. We can talk about really quick about the raids that are coming later. We can go to Farmable, raid only. So the raids that have to come out, we've got Raid Blackbeard, who should be coming soon. We've got the V2 Raid Doflamingo, who's already out. Raid Judge as well. Raid Judge has to come out. Raid Arlong. We aren't that far behind Japan in terms of raid units. Yeah, we're pretty much on point with where we are in terms of raids. But yeah, there aren't that many raids that need to come out, and honestly, I still think Raid Zora is like the best raid unit out of every single raid that is currently in the game right now. So yeah, I think Raid Zora is amazing. Farm him up because, as we mentioned, he has such a good special and a captain effect that's worthy of running as a free-to-play captain with, you know, Legend Doflamingo as a friend captain, run a full driven team, and you're going to be pretty Gucci for a while. So anyways, that's been my full breakdown of my personal top 10 list of raid characters that all free-to-play players should be aiming to farm for. Now, honestly, this isn't really aimed either for specifically free-to-play. You can, you know, be any player, and you should still take this into consideration of raid characters that you should be farming for. I think Zora is the best. You guys might disagree with my list, which is fine, but I think that all the top 10 raids that I have discussed, max them all out. They're all going to be exceptionally useful for clearing some high difficult content in the game as it stands right now. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video, and if you guys have enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post on my channel, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. But other than that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.